Hey, leaders. Today we're diving into a conversation with a school leader who has used collaborative response to transform the way teams work together in support of students. From years of hands-on experience leading schools and implementing the framework in different contexts, he brings valuable insight into what it takes to make collaboration truly sustainable. So let's get started. Are you a leader who is navigating the nuances of leading collaborative response in your school or district? Are you unsure of what collaborative response is? Are you looking to understand the critical role leadership plays when establishing and refining a collaborative response approach?
Collaborative response began as a grassroots approach to focus on the needs of students through a framework of collaboration. That approach has grown to a movement that is training leadership and education.
Through the Leading Collaborative Response podcast, Kurtis and I share our own experiences of leading collaborative response and lessons learned as we continue to learn and gain insight through the experiences of working alongside others. We also have the opportunity to engage in conversations with school and divisional leaders implementing the framework in their own organizations.
We know great leaders build great teams because that is what every child deserves. Subscribe to the Leading Collaborative Response podcast and join the thousands of schools seeing success for students through intentional and focused collaborative efforts. Before we jump into the episode, remember to join our mailing list at jlinsiders.com. Every Saturday, we send out an exclusive video only to our mailing list, along with other templates, resources, videos, and more. We also share upcoming events and opportunities you may not hear about anywhere else. Go to jlinsiders.com to become part of the JL Insider community.
Welcome to another episode of Leading Collaborative Response. I'm Lorna Hewson, co-founder and lead learner of Jigsaw Learning.
And I'm Kurtis Hewson. Today, we are excited to be joined by our friend and colleague, Trevor Van Someren, who has been a dedicated educator since 2001. He holds a Bachelor of Education focused on early childhood and a Master's of Education in secondary curriculum and instruction. For the past 13 years, Trevor has served as a K-8 principal, leading learning and fostering strong collaborative school cultures. He has deeply engaged in understanding and implementing collaborative response, and now we have the pleasure of working with Trevor as a WeCollab Lead for Jigsaw Learning. Engaging with schools and divisions in connecting the software to his lived collaborative response understanding, bringing a wealth of practical experience to our conversation today. So welcome, Trevor. Great to have you back on the episode.
Hi, Trev.
Hey, good morning.
So, Trev, we really want to start off. Viewers and listeners may already know you. You were part of episode 66, and we'll link it into this one, where you were explaining the collaborative work or response work at Griffith Scott School. But before we get into that, why don't you share with us a little bit of your journey, and particularly any experiences that you've had that have had a significant impact on the leader you are today?
Yeah, thanks for that great introduction, Kurtis and Lorna. So as you mentioned, I've been a teacher since 2001, an administrator since, I don't know, whatever 13 years ago is, 2012-ish or so. I've had the opportunity to work in a number of different roles. I have enjoyed working alongside different staff members, different variety of ways to support people, and being a school leader just kind of seemed to fit nicely with what I wanted to do and how I was able to find support within our schools.
Awesome.
Yeah, so Trevor, we had mentioned that you have had the chance to be able to implement collaborative response in a couple of schools, and we're just wondering if you could reflect back on your initial implementation and how you got that started, and then what were some of your initial wins and possibly some of those challenges too.
Sure. Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, I was with Wetaskiwin Regional Public Schools for 21 years. So all my school administration time was spent with that district. And a number of years ago, we had a structure in which all of the system team leaders were working as part of like a guiding coalition, a leadership cohort. So we had worked through a number of different things, as I'm sure a lot of districts did. We spent a lot of time working on professional learning communities, PLCs, of course. And then we had also been doing responding through intervention. And when we had Superintendent Peter Barron came along, he had, of course, a close partnership and had worked in the past with Jigsaw Learning. And he kind of helped lead us through the process to kind of join those frameworks together and really use the collaborative response framework to kind of help be the tool to be a cohesive team. So I would say, in terms of, you mentioned about a win, I would say that for me as a leader, I'm still a learner. And so being part of, the group that was kind of feeling out and figuring out how we wanted to grow and learn together, having that sense of ownership in the process, that to me was a win, because I got to learn alongside everybody and get kind of along with my fellow principals and vice principals. We kind of got to get excited as we brought in this process and learn what was going to be involved. And so we really had a belief that this was going to be a change agent. And so when you looked at, collective efficacy, the belief that we are the solution, we are the change, I would say that was truly the biggest win. So then when we, moved down the road and were able to actually start to implement it within our own sites, I think those particular leaders all shared in the fact that, man, like you can really see the change that it brings about in staff, because you then model with them and they also see that they're valued and part of the team, part of the change. So I would say that was probably the biggest win, was just being part of that process and seeing it on just the different levels as a learner and as a leader.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned both professional learning communities and response to intervention, and how that work that you had done with the with your school division previously really helped to create that foundation for the next step, which was really collaborative response, pulling all of those pieces together.
I can remember having conversations with Peter, and he was so excited to say, "Oh, the foundation is all there. This is not going to be, it's not going to be intensive
Starting brand
work to
new
get
or
started.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just going to be a natural lead." So you mentioned some of those wins. What did you see as some early challenges, Trev?
Um, I would say for me, I mean, when I lead, I can be a commanding presence and maybe sometimes an overpowering presence. And so for me to learn to just really be true to the roles, to assigning roles, and to just follow the process, and to really make sure I was like being true to the process. And so that was probably my biggest challenge, is like, okay, I don't need to guide every single step of the way. I want to oversee and make sure the process is being followed. But I think it's really important that you're true to the different roles, and seeing how the different pieces kind of fall in. And I realized the pun there, the purposeful pun with Jigsaw Learning, but like it really is kind of true when you see kind of an overhead view of how the pieces really do fit together. And different people in your team have different strengths and they bring different components, and it's really quite powerful.
Absolutely. So then, Trev, when you're thinking about the role that you play now in helping to support schools with the WeCollab software, how do you think the way your school division implemented collaborative response, because it was a system-wide implementation that honored each individual context, but was moving forward together, how do you think that's impacted the way you're working today with schools and districts who are trying to implement that WeCollab software?
I think it's really neat because, while it was a all across our district, it was an expectation that we were going to be part of the process. It was still honoring and respectful of the fact that each of the different sites and schools is unique. They're
Mhm.
not cookie cutters, and every leader has their own strengths and style, and every school team has their own unique dynamics. And so I think that as I've had this cool opportunity to just kind of look into a little window into the schools, which is my computer screen, as I chat with different leaders and see, and they share their stories and whatnot. It's been phenomenal, because it just kind of brings a little bit of excitement as you hear in the leader's voice. Oh, I'm going to try this, and oh, I'm so excited. I've got my first SST meeting next week, and I just want to make sure I've got this set up. And so you just hear the joy and excitement in school leaders' voices as they're sharing that. And that was similar to as we would circle back and reflect as a school, as a system administrative team, and we come back and connect and share back on our experiences, how it's going in our buildings, and kind of talk about what it's looking like. That was really similar too. And like, different schools launched at, whether it would be speedboats to, rowboats or sailboats, but everybody got, their boat in the water and they started moving. And, sometimes for me, maybe it felt like I would just had one paddle on one side and I was maybe going around in a circle, but you're still working as a team. And I think probably the most important part that really helped me initially is that, spending time and reflecting with my fellow leaders, whether it would be at my school level, when I was first implementing with Aaron Weimer, when he was vice principal and I was principal at Clear Vista. We would spend so much time debriefing, like, how do you think that went? I don't know. And then even just back at the leadership team meeting as well, like, giving yourself forgiveness that you don't have to, like, you're not going to hit everything all at once. And then you're going to circle back and revisit. And the success actually comes from the process of working through it. That's the win.
So one of the most powerful steps going forward was that you were all on the same lake.
Yeah.
Yes. Very true. Yeah. Yeah, that is very true.
And so I'm interested, Trev, to dig into this a little bit more, because we spend lots of time talking about collaborative response and how the foundational components fit and what do meetings look like and how do you utilize data and evidence. But then there's always an element of implementation
Yeah.
that is critically important to understand. So I'd love to hear from your perspective. What are some of the lessons you've learned about the process of implementation when you're introducing something new to an organization, which, again, I know that you are living firsthand right now, working with schools implementing WeCollab into
Yeah.
their processes. We'll be right back to continue this episode.
I know for anyone coordinating services and supports for students, it can be a struggle to keep track of and monitor what is happening for students across the school. What if there was an easy way to visually organize students while continuously updating what is in place for their success and ongoing growth? By establishing visual boards with easy access to a comprehensive student profile, organization and tracking concerns become a thing of the past. Start your free trial now to experience the power of WeCollab.
And now back to our conversation.
So I would say just getting things started is important. So deciding kind of what's your comfort zone, the strength of your school team. And so for me, in my two most recent schools at Griffith Scott or at Clear Vista, the team that met the most was like our student support team. And that was the team that was the most comfortable with each other. They worked the most together in that environment. Not to say they were the strongest team compared to other teams within the school, but just in terms of the team I worked with the most directly. And
Mm.
so that was where I always started, was with the student support team. So when I was getting started with initially just with collaborative response, talking about norms, playing roles within the group, we started at the student support team level.
Right.
Uh, and then once we got some comfort within that, that is when we then talked as that team. How are we going to roll this out into our
Mhm.
collaborative team meetings?
Mhm.
And so that was where we started small. We kind of started at home, if you want to
Mhm.
look at it that
Yeah.
way. And then we branched out more into the neighborhood. Um, and so we did a lot of front loading with people. We talked a lot about what the process. One of the things that was really beneficial that I found was that, with Jigsaw Learning, there's a lot of organizers, a lot of information because, the two of you have had the opportunity to have, built this with a lot of divisions, and you've got access to a whole network of like, well, when this district tried it, they did this, they found success, and you could try this and you can use this and
Mhm.
make this your own.
Yeah.
So I can't even think of the amount of different um, agenda formats I looked at and tweaked and changed. And it's like, well, we're going to make this yellow and then we're going to circle back to this because this visual, the amount of strategy and thought that go into it based on reflection of a team of professionals is really important. And the fact that the way that Clear Vista did collaborative response differently than Griffith Scott did, than Parkdale did, there wasn't a better, it was just different, and it worked for that context depending on their unique circumstances.
We often share that within divisions, and Wetaskiwin Regional is certainly was and currently is one that would fit this mold precisely. We're all trying to speak the same language, or like the
Yep.
analogy earlier,
Mhm.
work on the same lake. But
Yeah.
when that idea of speaking the same language, recognizing there's going to be different dialects,
Yeah.
different accents that can exist. But when people, I'm sure when you went into Griffith Scott from Clear Vista, there were things that were recognizable, that people were still talking the same language, even though there were some slight variations that fit that school's context.
Oh, for sure. And heading, I was only at Griffith Scott for 2 years, and I spent a little bit of time there the previous year just kind of helping out. It was just such a cool experience to head into a school that had done so much work and had so much structure in place that was honestly really different.
Mm.
And it really worked for that school. And I, to sit back and kind of take in like, wow, this works really well. Why? How come? Okay. To kind of hear from the different teammates within the school why things worked. And then we ended up changing things, as we headed into year one, kind of throughout the year. And then year two with different changes to staffing and all sorts of things. We moved things, and I believe now with different leadership, I think things are a little bit different, and that's good
Mhm.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so seeing the strength of the different teammates and what they bring, that helps you structure. So as a leader, your job is to put the framework together that's going to allow for your teammates to collaborate successfully, having the expectation that we are going to be collaborative, that we are going to work together. That's not the part that's up for negotiation. What's
Mhm.
up for feedback and negotiation is like, what works best for this team? When do we want to meet? How do we want to meet? Do we want to have time at the beginning of a collaborative team meeting to quickly fill out an organizer?
Mhm.
Absolutely. Let's build that into our time. No, other groups. No, we want to have that done. When I come, I want to be ready to go, and I want to spend my time, and I got to pick my kids up at 4:15, or my collaborative response time is from 2 o'clock to 2:45, and I want to make sure I'm on that time.
Yeah.
The different needs of different groups, and just really paying attention and being mindful of the fact that there's uniqueness to every group.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, and it really speaks to the work that we do consistently across the province is just being able to share that framework. And I love how you share that Trevor, is that idea of, we understand that framework, but it's going to look different in every school, and we would expect that it would look different because you need to make decisions based on that specific context that you're in.
Yeah.
So, Trevor, tell us a little bit about, we talk a lot about the layers of team.
Yeah, and you've
And
mentioned school
yeah,
support team, collaborative team meetings already.
yeah, so we would love for you to share a little bit about the layers of team and, your experience through that principle. And then how does WeCollab fit into that? Or how do you help schools to use that software to greater support those levels of team?
Yeah. Well, the last two schools that I was a leader at, um, we were on a 4-day rotation rather than a Monday to Friday. And so our student support team met once every 4 days.
Mhm.
Sometimes that even meant, like rarely, with depending how the weeks were falling in the calendar. Sometimes it would even be twice in a week. But essentially, by following that 4-day rotation, you were meeting for sure once a week. And it was when you're key team members were there, whether it was a shared staff with a family school liaison or Indigenous support worker. You could structure that. And we had that laid out. I had that laid out the year before and built into a calendar, a physical color coded calendar, as well as Google Calendar. It was known, it was on the Monday memo. It was clear that this is when we are going to be able to meet. And with those student support teams, over time, I started building in time so that teachers could be available to come in for parts of the student support
Hmm.
team meeting. So let's say that there was like, you know, an issue that was pressing and it wasn't something that was going to wait for a collaborative team meeting, in a few weeks. It's something that's been upcoming, a student that's struggling. We knew we had a time where we're meeting with the big players within the school that could
Yeah.
really be uh, making impacts. And so we used to use a Google form, but the nice thing with WeCollab is you could actually do alerts right on there. But at the time, we used a Google form and teachers could just kind of fill out. Sometimes teachers didn't want to join the meeting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Sometimes they
Yeah.
just wanted to know that, hey, my principal and vice principal know about this. They're going to talk about it. They're going to come back to me with maybe some quick solutions. Maybe there's going to be some extra help at recess time, or maybe it's going to be, they're going to order me a new wiggle cushion for my student or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But sometimes they did want to be there and they wanted to be part of it. So
Hmm.
embedding that as one of the important team layers, teachers and staff knowing how they can get the support. That really helped things out.
Yeah.
Scheduling the collaborative team meetings, every school jurisdiction has their own constraints and budgets and whatever and expectations. But setting up in advance when your collaborative team meetings are going to be, that same color coded calendar,
Yeah.
that was kind of our framework. But you know, I might not know when I'm laying things out the previous May that we're going to have, a bus cancellation and whatever. Like it was always movable. It was the
Yeah.
idea that we were going to have it within this week. And then using Google Calendar and our weekly memo and just communicating with people, hey, you know what? I think we're going to move this meeting up a week and we're going to have
Mm.
another meeting the next, like just having that
Yeah.
communication with your teammates to make sure that everybody knew what the expectations were.
Hmm.
One of the other pieces in terms of layers of team that I learned from one of my colleagues, and I referenced him before from Aaron Weimer, is he did a really nice job of bringing clarity to what data we were going to be looking at in advance for the different
Mm.
meetings.
Right.
And, I've circled around a number of different ways. And it's interesting as I've chatted with some different leaders when they've talked about, okay, this meeting, we're going to talk about literacy. And then at our next CTM, we're going to talk about numeracy. And then at our next one, it's going to be wellness. Then it's like, then they kind of go, yeah, but how am I going to check back in on the numeracy part if
Yeah.
we're not meeting on that topic for so long? So it's really interesting. I think if I was to go back and do it all again, I would really have just a a main focus for my collaborative team meetings, and we would stick to that all year long. But, how do you choose which focus you want to focus on? Answer to that, of course, being what's most important to the team. What is it they want to focus and grow on? So that kind of chats about the different layers of teams. The main two, of course, case consults come up as needed when experts are available, when parents come in. One of the things that I've appreciated about WeCollab is that any of the meeting notes that you make. So if I make a note on a student support team meeting in October, and then that student circles back and they're at a collaborative team meeting in November, and then actually we had a parent meeting in November, and then we had an expert come in, and they came in early December. When I circle back in January and I'm talking to my system leaders, my associate superintendents or deputies or directors, and I want to say, well, you know what? I can just pull up for you. Here's the notes, the nice little summary of the different actions that we've tried. Here's all the supports that we've tied in for this student. Here's all the times that our school team has met. And here, we just wanted to share this back with you. The other nice piece is, as a jurisdiction, they have access to that. Like your jurisdiction lead can pull up from the different sites and see the information. So it's really nice to have the information, the data visible, presentable in an easy fashion. When I've been meeting with leaders so far, I have been encouraging them. So when there's collaborative planning meetings, if the collaborative planning team members can have WeCollab up on their smartboard or on their board as they're touching base, and having the students present, seeing if they need to circle in an action, because as a school leader, you might not be in that meeting, but they can get requested into an action. And it's really nice because it just holds everything together with that cohesiveness. And it's really quite a nice tool for however many ways you want to use it.
I think what you're sharing there, and this is one of our key messages, is the process trumps the tool, but the tool can really help enhance the process in time. So even in your description of, we set this out in calendars, we made it clear what the purpose is, how's the data to connect. I mean, you can do all of that without a piece of software necessarily.
For sure.
But then the software allows us to be able to track, okay, what have we tried? What have we done? And we've often said at the jurisdictional level, the referral process is really just built right in, because I can say, hey, I think we're ready to move to the next level. And that district lead can say, yeah, I'm looking at the notes myself, and whew, you guys have done a lot for this student in a lot of different conversations.
Well, and that's one of the most powerful things about WeCollab is building that student profile for every student in your school, just through the collaborative conversations that you're having. And over time, you've got this wonderful list, several different strategies that you've tried, the actions that have happened around that student, and it becomes that, like you said, a great summary to be able to share with parents or with district, depending on what the needs are going forward.
Oh, for sure.
So, Trev, want to ask as well, you and your past partner, assistant principal at the school, Michelle Miklick, had a chance to present at our collaborative response retreat here last year. Love for you to just take a second to share your thoughts around that experience and that retreat, as we are looking to once again host that again in Lacombe in May.
Yeah, you know what? It was really, I didn't want to say fun, but honestly, it was just really a lot of fun because...
We'll be right back to continue this episode. Leaders, are you looking for the most effective ways to empower your staff and elevate student support? Jigsaw Learning invites you to our free 2025 Collaborative Response Virtual Summit on December 1st. Join us online to learn directly from school and district leaders who are transforming their organizations with collaborative response. Discover how this robust framework can deepen your multi-tiered approach, build collective staff capacity, and ensure success for all learners. You'll gain practical resources, connect with educational leaders globally, and unlock numerous surprises, all at no cost. Mark your calendar for December 1st, 2025. Don't miss this opportunity to strengthen your leadership and build a thriving school culture. Visit jigsawlearning.ca for details and get ready to empower your team. And now back to our conversation.
I didn't want to say fun, but like honestly, it was just really a lot of fun because getting a chance to sit down with other administrators, other teachers, and school leaders who are at various stages of the collaborative response journey. It's just really fascinating to talk about and like, hey, I can share with you this organizer. Oh, you want to see that? Like just the sharing and the energy within the room that goes back. And I mean, Kurtis is one heck of a presenter, so it's engaging, it's entertaining, and we did a live kind of a mini collaborative team meeting at the front, and it was just seeing everything in action was really quite fun. And then as a presenter, getting to kind of, you know, pump the tires of the teammates that I had worked with at my school, that was really nerve-wracking but exciting and fun too. So yeah, all in all, I would say I'm super glad that I got involved and presented. It was fun, took me out of my comfort zone a little bit, and yeah, it's one thing to speak in front of your staff or your students, but when you're speaking in front of other administrators, it's always an extra layer of excitement for sure.
And you get that opportunity again this upcoming year. We're excited to offer you that opportunity.
Well, it sounds like I can't really turn that down, can I? It was great weather when we were down there, and it was in the heart of the Oilers playoff run too. So
yeah, that's right.
That's, the same situation.
Yeah, let's hope so. Absolutely. So Trev, we want to ask you, and you've had a chance to reflect on this question before, but we know that this learning is always iterative. There's always looping. You come back to
You've
a concept,
talked about this already,
and you have a deeper understanding and can see it from a different viewpoint. So we want to ask you a couple questions. We've asked you before in the past. The first one is, how would you finish this statement? As a result of collaborative response we've seen, and then I'd also like, because of your unique perspective that you have right now, how would you also finish then a sentence of, as a result of WeCollab we have seen? So a little bit of a two-parter.
So I would say cohesion. So I have seen pieces get kind of held together nicely. As a school leader, I was, I found myself, I was putting a number of actions in that I was going to take. It held my, as my kids used to say, held my own self. To a level of accountability, but also as a school leader, any actions that I put in for the rest of the teammates, it allowed for me to be able to have just a check-in. Hey, how did it go when you said you were going to connect with Damien's mom? How did that go? Didn't get a chance to. Can you make sure that you get that done for our next meeting? So just having everything kind of at your fingertips with reminders there. Having the supports built in to WeCollab, whether it would be putting in your own continuum of supports, but also having access to the network of all of the supports that all of the different schools and districts have included in there. That's nice. And it's kind of rewarding a little bit to be like, oh, that's what we do too. Oh, they tried that and that works for them. And it's kind of nice, but it's also good when you're like kind of really thinking about like, man, what should we do? And you see something, you go, oh my God, of course.
Yeah.
We've done that and we found success. And that piece right there, that's actually overall what I've found the win with collaborative response is as a school leader, I am helping teammates to unlock the fact that yes, we can do this. Yes, you can do this. You've done it before. And it's just opening up our mind to the fact that it's possible. We can do it. Let's support each other and we can do it as a team. So that's been the kind of the true win. It's when you circle back to your different teammates and you go, hey, John, do you remember when you had this and you tried this? Can you share a little bit about what you did in that situation? And then they go, oh, yeah, actually, I did do that. And then they share. And then somebody else joins in and says, actually, you know what? I might try that. And then you get ideas and actions blooming out of that because people are realizing that they're coming to the meeting and they're able to offer support and solution. And it's not just here, school leader, you need to fix this. It's we can fix this. We got this. So that is kind of my extended answer to your question.
It's funny. I mean, this is somewhat connected, but early in my career, I can remember having a banner in my grade 3 classroom that had Bob the Builder and the statement, yes, we can. Because again, we're trying to build that even within the classroom of, yeah, this is a struggle, but we can do it.
Yep.
Yeah. What could we do?
If there's no struggle, was it worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's usually generates the best solutions, right?
For sure.
So, Trevor, we have another question. And like Kurtis mentioned, you have responded to this in the past. So it might be a little bit different now, really thinking about your role. But if you knew then what you know now, what advice would you give to your past self in relation to this collaborative response work?
Don't be afraid to ask for help. There's no like dumb question. There's no silly answer. If there's anything that you're kind of struggling with, chances are either somebody else is struggling with it too, and maybe they were a little bit too shy to ask, or maybe they had struggled with it. They found the answer and they can help you out. And you're just strengthening your relationship by kind of sharing that you too are also struggling. So being not like just not being afraid to ask for help. I think sometimes people are proud or they don't want to admit that they don't get it or they're afraid they're going to look dumb. I have definitely in this new role, I've been learning every single day, and it's been awesome. And man, oh man, like I should be well ahead of the curve because I've made so many mistakes that I've had so many opportunities to learn from. So it's good.
Awesome. And I think that's really the whole premise behind this collaborative response work is nobody has all the answers, but together, oh boy, do we know a lot collectively. And if you don't have that vulnerability to be able to say, I'm struggling with this, you really, by saying that, you open the door to possibilities.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think that's kind of the true sense of like circling back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of the podcast was, um, you know, sitting back in the room as a group of leaders, and identifying, areas for growth and finding, okay, what can we do? What would we like to try?
Yeah.
And then being empowered to seek that out and try it and build it and do it. And what's our check-ins? What are we going to know to be successful? Like, true learning through the process as leaders. That's what collaborative response actually allows teams to do, is it just kind of unlocks, rather than trying to individually problem solve for every single student. When we layer our supports, then we've got the opportunity to actually kind of connect with more students to be more successful.
Absolutely. All right. So, Trev, as we wrap up here, if people have questions and would love to connect with you, how do they go about doing that? What's the best way?
I mean, the easiest way is send me an email, trevor.vansomeren@jigsawlearning.ca. If they're interested in following on social media, I'm probably most active on Instagram at TrevVRealty. And you'll also get the opportunity to see lots of great properties and information because I'm also a real estate agent with Century 21 Masters.
That's awesome.
And boy, you talk about continuing that process as a learner. I'm sure that's been another huge opportunity for learning as well, my friend.
Oh, it definitely has. Yeah, it's been phenomenal. I've absolutely loved the challenge from going from part-time to full-time realtor. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But again, lots of opportunities to ask for help and
Yeah.
lots of opportunities to learn from mistakes too. So it's been great.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Trevor. And we really value this conversation and just all of the things that you have shared for our listeners, and so much learning there.
Thanks, Trevor.
Yeah, it's always great to chat with you, Hewsons. I love it.
All right. Take care, and we'll chat again soon.
Bye for
Okay, sounds
now.
good.
So obviously, we have a chance to chat with Trev on a regular basis.
Yeah.
This is actually, I think it might have been the third time because I'm pretty sure that we did a podcast with Trevor and Aaron Weimer that he talked about before when they
Hmm.
were at Clear Vista
Yeah.
as well. We'll try and add that into the show notes here as well. Always a pleasure
Yeah.
to talk with Trev, and it's interesting. Just again, that idea of always learning, and it's built into the process. I loved where he really honed in today on creating opportunities for purposeful reflection
Yeah.
and being able to pause and say, okay, did that work? Why did
Hmm.
it work? If it
Hmm.
didn't, what could we do differently? And just really making that intentional at every layer of team.
But doing that with a lead team
Yeah.
that consistently bringing back that question and spending some time on how is that implementation going and how is it working for each of our
Mhm.
teams, and but having those conversations, just not depending on the leader themselves to do that, but to actually bring other people to the table
Yeah.
to talk through that idea of how do we build this system of supports in a way that is going to be highly yeah, impactful for both of our students and our staff.
Yeah. Well, and you heard this loud and clear, the continual referencing to efficacy,
Yeah.
being able to
Yeah.
just continue to reinforce yeah, we got this, guys. We can do this.
Yeah.
What else could we try? And sometimes it may just be a reminder of, oh, yeah, I used to do that.
Yeah.
Whether that's from an individual classroom perspective or as a leader, or even, we used to do that in our school. Why did we quit
Yeah.
doing that? Like just
It,
overall
Trevor
reflection.
really provided a great description of what that sounds like in a collaborative team meeting as that team focuses in on a key issue,
Mhm.
and then how we build and learn from each other. And we might share one idea, but then it generates a thinking for the rest of the team and creates a new idea based on the original idea, like just that building and building of the pieces. And he described that so well. And then a little bit later, he talked about how, it is through that teamwork that we unlock that collective efficacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw you note this down too. I
Yes.
love the analogy of um, we might be in different boats
Oh, yeah.
at different
Uh-huh.
times, but and
And
you drew
different
the,
kinds of boats.
yeah, but you made then the connection too. Yeah, but we're all on the same lake and we're all heading towards a
Yeah.
similar destination. And if I'm to extend that metaphor, sometimes it may feel like we're all rowing on the same side of the boat and it just feels like we're going in
Yeah.
circles. Then there's times we get our stride and can make incredible progress. So we're moving forward, and then something happens and we have to readjust. Like, I think that's such great way when we're thinking about leading collaborative response across a system where you can honor the unique dynamics and context of
Yeah.
each individual site.
And understanding how important that is.
Mhm.
And Trevor just really talking about his experience with other leaders and trying to implement this work, but at least like there's a foundation that everyone is
Yeah.
working toward, but it looks different in each of our own boats.
Yeah, absolutely. So, once again, we would love to thank Trev for joining us on the podcast and sharing his expertise. Please make sure to check out the notes to learn more and connect with Trevor if interested in a further
Yeah.
conversation. As always, we have two requests. First, join or share our mailing list at jlinsiders.com to receive weekly content and resources that we know you'll find valuable. Second, please like, share, review, or subscribe to help ensure someone else who needs to hear this, what we've discussed, has a chance to do that. Finally, don't hesitate to reach out to us at questions at Jigsaw Learning. If you have a question, a future topic
Hmm.
you'd love for us to explore, or if you'd just like to connect, we'd love to hear from you. So, wishing you the best as you lead collaborative response in your own organization.
See you soon.
For more on collaborative response, visit jigsawlearning.ca or join the JL Insider to receive access to newly added resources and content. Make sure to follow us on social media. Subscribe to the podcast and the Jigsaw Learning YouTube channel to access past and upcoming episodes. Join us again to continue to build your own capacity in leading collaborative response in your context.